Let's bring up our four speakers. Dave Ernsberger, Global Head of Pricing and Market Insights, S&P Global Platts. Captain Salem Hmoudi, of course, Director of FOIS, who gave the welcoming comment. His colleague, Captain Ali Abdouli, Deputy Manager for Fujairah Oil Tanker Terminal, and Lars Liebig, Managing Director of Uniper Energy, Dubai. So welcome to you all, and ask you to open your cameras and your microphone, and we will kick off this panel session. Let's start with Mr. Lars Liebig, Managing Director of Uniper Energy. Lars is the head of the Uniper refinery in Fujairah and heads up their business that has been there now for over 5 years. Lars, your opening 2-minute comment.
Thanks, Sean, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, in my opening statement today, I would, rather than focusing on our existing business, like to draw your attention more towards future energy products, which we believe are going to emerge over the next couple of years. The reason why we will see new products coming up is based on rising commitments around the world towards carbon reduction targets. And when you look up today how many countries have set themselves clear CO2 targets, you will see that countries like New Zealand, Sweden, Germany, France, UK, Denmark, they've already implemented their targets by law, and most of them want to be carbon neutral by 2050 and some even earlier. And many more countries have come forward with policy positions or statements of intent, and here you find big names like Japan, the US, or China, one of the biggest emitters of CO2. And you have countless big corporations around the world which set themselves their own individual targets, like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and many more. So if you count all of these commitments together, these represent already the vast majority of the world's current energy demand. And that means over the next 3 decades, the world's energy demand based on fossil fuels need to be replaced by renewables. And only a few areas in the world will be able to cover their renewable demand based on own local production. So many areas, many countries will still need to import, but then renewable energy, and consequently others will be exporters. And here comes the big role of hydrogen, obviously. So hydrogen can be produced from renewable electricity. So you get green hydrogen, how we call it, which is carbon free. The only issue with that is that it cannot easily be transported. And this is why we will likely see a conversion into products like ammonia or methanol, which are a lot easier to store and transport. And given the Middle East is very rich in solar irradiation, I think it has a great opportunity to become a main exporter of green hydrogen, and methanol and ammonia will be the vehicles for that export. So for that reason, I believe that those two products will gain momentum quickly over the next couple of years. And I think Fujairah should prepare itself to be able to store and handle those products. But the main challenge will be for Fujairah to secure a steady flow of those products from upcoming hydrogen projects in the region. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Lars, for that opening comment. And I would just like to make the point for everybody attending the workshop that if you want to make a comment or post a question, please do so on the chat function, which is open for everybody, and we can pick up some comments and questions from there. Let's bring in Dave Ernsberger, Global Head of Pricing and Market Insights for S&P Global Platts, for David's opening 2 comments. Of course, Platts has been a long-time partner with Fujairah and published the weekly inventory data every Wednesday. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Sean, and thanks to you and Gulf Intelligence and all the partners here for hosting the event today. It's already been exciting, lively, and thought-provoking. I was especially encouraged by the first poll that you ran, where you took us through the results. My headline from that is that 98% of the people who are with us today believe that Fujairah is halfway or further towards becoming a global energy trading hub. And I completely, thoroughly agree with that. As you won't be surprised to hear, I wasn't in the 2% that thought it was not quite halfway. And there's really good, sound, important reasons for that. And I'm proud that Platts has played a role in taking this journey forward with the port, with the trading companies, with everybody else. But there's a bigger picture reason why Fujairah is clearly past the halfway point. You know, we are now In 2021, into the 5th year of independent flat price physical price assessments for refined products in Fujairah. So a mean of Platts Fujairah and the Platts Fujairah assessments were launched in September of 2016. So we're hitting the 5th year of flat price numbers, which, as we talked about, many people here in this panel back at that time, it's around 4 to 5 years into a data history that the markets begin to get that confidence to consider using potentially a new benchmark. And we're in that 5th year now, which is that sort of that hot spot, which I'm very excited about. And that's one reason. Another reason is that the infrastructure in Fujairah, as we've already heard today on the panel and the previous panel, continues to grow around Fujairah. So not only is there the tankage, which was the jumping off point of all of this, the world-class tankage and the matrix manifold and all of that, there continues to be investments in refinery infrastructure. And of course, we have the crude popping up later this year as well in terms of the Murban delivery in Fujairah. So all of these assets around physical trading, physical valuation continue to evolve in Fujairah. And that's a credit to everybody working on the Fujairah project across the board. So all the pieces are falling into place. What I wanted to share with everybody on our panel today is last year was a seminal year for the conversation around Fujairah becoming a benchmark hub in its own right. Two really important headlines to call out for everybody here. And I don't know how closely everybody tracks these things, because it's part of my job to look at them every day, all day long, but I appreciate it's not everybody else's job to do that. So during the market crisis of 2020, we received a lot of input at Platts about MOPAG in April and May. The MOPAG jet price fell to $4.90 a ton, $5, something like that. It was virtually getting towards zero. A combination, of course, jet was especially hard hit and is still especially hard hit from the crisis that we're in. It was a combination of low flat prices for jet generally, high freight rates because of people loading up vessels with inventory and using floating storage. So that high freight rate, low flat price led to relatively low, very low netback values in the Middle East. So we had a clarion call to take urgent steps to make sure that if MOPAG was to be negative, it was because the market was indeed negative. And what I want to stress to everybody is we brought in FOB Fujairah as the mechanism that if the netbacks fall to zero or below, we will look at the FOB Fujairah number as the basis for the MOPAG number. So that's done, and it's in the methodology, which is another meaningful step towards FOB Fujairah becoming a benchmark in its own right. The second thing I call out, and then I'll give way, Sean, because I know you have other speakers today, is that we actually went a step further and proposed converting MOPAG completely into the flat price assessment. We actually proposed that in May of last year. We had a consultation on it over the month of June. And in the end, the market wasn't quite ready to take that step, but it was a lot closer to being ready to take that step than it's ever been before. So we didn't make that change in 2020, but the pathway has been really clarified towards one potential evolution that puts Fujairah into the benchmark status that it deserves to be at. You know, our goal at Platts has always been, will always be, to reflect the needs of the market, to reflect the demand we hear from participants for benchmarks and benchmark outcomes. So we want to get the balance right between leading change and following appetite for change. But all those events of last year, coupled with the history we've established of price assessments, inventory, and everything else, means this market is incredibly well placed at this point in 2021 to make that next big step. So very, very exciting times, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Captain Salem, your sort of opening thoughts on this question.
Thank you, Sean. I think many if I wanted to say already been covered during the first and the second panel. I would like to make some emphasis on the location. We didn't touch on it much. I think we are very much strategically located to advance our journey. You know, we are outside the choke point of Hormuz. That means a lot. You know, there is an easy evacuation or easy delivery point that falls outside the Gulf. Offers sustainability. It offers more security to the supply. Adding to that, I remember back in the time, I think in 2015, we talked a lot about the transparency road that Fujairah needs to go through in order to facilitate data to the market based on what traders and investments will take place, mitigating risk and tapping into opportunities. Again, I think in partnership with S&P Global Platts, we've been doing a very good job. We've been publishing weekly, credible, accessible data sets to the community in a public platform that is gaining traction year after year. As a government, again, we are in discussion with Platts, with the port, how we can further improve those data sets and maybe add new data to them. So hopefully that will materialize soon as well. In relation to volume, a trading hub would require some volume to be traded. And there is, as Mike said, crude is one thing, derivatives is another thing. But if we talk in a bigger picture, I think last year we have handled in the region of 120 million tons that comes through Fujairah. I agree again with Mike when he said Fujairah is known to be a bunkering hub, which is 100% correct. But again, bunkering constitutes a very small amount of the overall volume handled in Fujairah, getting blended, manufactured, or some other stuff.
About 10%, right?
Yeah, it's about that range. Again, a trading hub or an energy hub will require a storage place. So there's abundance of storage in Fujairah. 2020, I think there was a big rush on the storage. We ran at a very high levels of occupancy and utilization during the year of 2020. We are expanding in partnership with our partners the storage capacity. I think in the next few years, we'll be talking about adding 6 to 7 million additional storage capacity in Fujairah. Refining, it is going up slowly and steadily over the years. Vitol been running a refinery since many years, joined by Uniper, now joined by Ecomar. There's a plans to increase or expand the refining capacity. Technology and soft infrastructure, I think I've been an advocate for it for so many years now. Again, in the port, in Foz, we are utilizing the latest technologies here. We run a very efficient operation, and we benchmark ourselves as well with the other trading and energy hub of the world, and we find ourselves in the market conform region. So this would be my thoughts, Sean, for this question.
Thank you, Captain. Let's have the survey question to bring everybody in the room into this panel discussion. What steps should Fujairah take next to further position itself as a global energy hub? The 5 options are there. Surface as many data points as possible. Transparency, transparency, transparency. B, sustainability at the center of strategy, decarbonization and other things. C, make the port as flexible and as efficient as possible. D, prioritize alternative fuels, hydrogen, methanol, etc. Or E, none of the above. What steps should Fujairah take next? So the big emphasis there on next. Choose one and please press the button and we'll go back to the panel. Lars, back to you on this question before we bring in Captain Ali. Obviously, there has been a development in refining, more refining. Is that necessary? Should Fujairah be prioritizing other things than doing more of the same of what they already do? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, as Captain Salem said, the current refining activities are very much focused on producing marine fuel for the local bunker market and further serving the areas around Fujairah. And I think it's fair to say that the local supply is pretty much covering the demand. So I don't see the need for extra capacity, to be frank. And it's also, I think, coming to a risk if more capacity comes online, focusing on that specific market. I think Fujairah will turn into an export hub for VLSFO, and I don't think that's sustainable in terms of pricing and margins for the refiners. So I don't think that's A, necessary, and B, in the long run, really suitable for that market because it's well supplied.
Okay, Captain Ali, welcome your thoughts on picking up from Lars's point, but also to the answer to the wider question on what next for Fujairah to become an energy trading hub.
Well, good morning, everybody. I mean, in addition to what has already been said, I mean, I only can add a very small thing. I mean, the government of Fujairah has been always committed to continue developing and catering for the growing demand. I mean, with the help of the partners in Fujairah, we keep, developing and cooperating just to get ahead of the market. One thing definitely I think we need to look at is like the new technology and how to use it. I mean, and to ease things up, add more transparency, add more information published about Fujairah, add more marketing. If I remember correctly, one of the major points Mr. Bouanin from Aramco said last year was that Fujairah lacked global marketing. Okay, I know you guys are doing really a brilliant job, and others are also doing. But I think we also need to focus a little bit more about that. To get more new player from outside the region, we definitely need to, add, more events maybe, or just get the attention of everybody. Make sure that everybody knows what's available in Fujairah. Fujairah has to continue developing what it has, continue building up on the reputation it's built all so far, continue maintaining the trust of the customers. And inshallah, I think hopefully we will keep competing with everybody. We'll keep ahead of the market, and that's
that is the beauty in a way of the data point, the transparency, Dave, isn't it? In essence, it's critical for the market in order for the market to have price reference, but it's also it can also be a very important marketing tool in terms of getting the brand name out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Visibility, word of mouth, being talked about, being part of the global conversation. These are the hallmarks of, the other major benchmark locations all around the world, right? When you want a quick and easy reference for why is the price up? Why is the price down? What is the backwardation doing? As Mike was talking about on the first panel, we want people to be saying, if you look at Fujairah, you can see why. And that data becomes a really powerful part of being in the narrative is as much a part of being a benchmark as anything.
Let's bring up the survey result, Dave, because I'd like you to get your comments on it. What steps next? So 30% just pipping is make the port as flexible and as efficient as possible. And behind it, surface as many data points as possible. Some of your thoughts there, Dave?
Yeah, I think that all of these things are desirable things to be doing, and I'm sure there's a sense at which the port would say it would want to be working on parallel tracks with all of these different initiatives, and I'm sure a few others besides. But if the goal of the survey is to pick some priorities, I feel like the top two here are the right top two, given where Fujairah is, given what's going on in the market, given the need and the desire for people to have all new solutions out there, right? So I think it looks like the port being more flexible and efficient is slightly pipping data points on this one, 30% versus 28%, pretty close. I did vote for surface as many data points as possible, but I have a benchmark publisher's bias on that answer anyways, So I think this is the right thing to be focusing on, making the port work ever better as it already does, always improving on all of that, and making sure we have all the data points to give the confidence and the insight into what's going on. So they feel like the right two to me.
Lars, your thoughts on that? My sense, I voted actually for sustainability because I do think the idea that we've got to get that into the strategy in a way, decarbonization, we've got to be part of that conversation and the efficiency that comes with it.
Yeah, I think in a way you can, also put sustainability and alternative fuels together. They're not necessarily two separate things. So you could argue about 40% voted for, getting ready for the future also. And I think it's very important to start thinking about that, because there's a risk that Fujairah, what they all achieved over the last years, put at risk if they not keep catching up with those developments as well. And if you imagine big hydrogen projects being built elsewhere in the country, because I don't think Fujairah as a location can host a massive amount of capacity given how the mountains flow into the area. So I think you will probably put those projects somewhere else in the country. So how do you get the production from those facilities into Fujairah? Will there be a pipeline connection, or how will that work? But I think it's very crucial for Fujairah to secure those outputs from those locations in order to get the flow into the hub. because what you don't want is having new hubs or existing hubs within the AG emerging and becoming the new hubs of trading those products. Fujairah don't want to lose out on this, I believe. So I think it's very crucial to connect with these projects and be on top of it.
Well, we are seeing Captain Ali just down the road, Duqm in Oman, obviously doing new things and presenting, an alternative in time. And we need to be, as you say, staying ahead of the game. Perhaps we could bring up that survey result again so Captain Ali can also comment on the results. But greater flexibility in the port was the top choice. Ali, your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I personally voted for option D, the pure future. I think at this point, as you rightly mentioned, everybody is trying to cope with the market demand, look for the future, and I mean, be ahead of the market. I mean, whoever gets it first, I think it's all, that's what we say in Arabic. So Duqm is definitely looking to take some business from Fujairah. Everybody else is keen to compete with us and beat us in any way. I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but Fujairah is well known all over the world. And to be in the level of Fujairah is something everybody seeks in this region. Yeah. So for us to be ahead of the market, we need to work harder. We need to try to always be ahead of the game. Try to look for a new market. For example, everybody nowadays is talking about the renewable energy, the future fuels, LNG, LPG, bunkering. I mean, we as Fujairah definitely are keen to diversify our portfolio, to have this sort of fuels in Fujairah. But to do that, we need more cooperation. We need better planning. We need to facilitate and make sure that everybody gets what he needs easily here in Fujairah to get to that point.
Dave, the developments, as was mentioned earlier, of the future of Fujairah being more about crude than products, and perhaps your thoughts on that, and what does that mean as we build up greater crude oil storage capacity here in Fujairah, maybe the biggest east of Suez?
So Sean, when you were saying the development being more about crude than products, I'm not sure that it's more about crude than products. I think crude is essentially this year becoming a parity partner with products around the development of the hub. I think
Okay.
We were hearing in the first panel again, I think from Mike especially, that Fujairah is known as a core bunkering location, which is foundationally important to its identity, and around all of that has come blending storage across the barrel, not just for residuals. So there's been a bit of a journey that is anchored in one of the refined products. It's embraced more of the refined products. And similarly, crude has always been there. In the background, it's been part of logistics, is storage of Iraqi barrels there and other barrels there over time, from time to time. And I think what we're seeing here is crude arriving to be a sort of parity player with products. So it's not that it's more important, it's that it needs to be as important, because what does that help the market to potentially do? Well, it helps the market to have a geographical basis that is clear and consistent when measuring something like product spreads and crack spreads, for example. Murban crude is slightly different, frankly, quality to the quality that everybody else is usually looking at in medium sour and in normal times. So there's a little bit of variance there on basis on quality. But I mean, the location basis being the same is very valuable.
In comparison to Singapore, which is obviously the comparison or the aspiration in ways for Fujairah, is Singapore is getting away from crude oil storage. And so I'm just wondering if does that create an opportunity, or what does that make the dynamic for Fujairah?
Yeah, I think there is an opportunity there. Some of the refining capacity is being rolled down in Singapore. Last time I checked, I think Bukom was going to maybe remove some of its capacity. It's still run, obviously, by the way. So Singapore is sort of going down the gears while Fujairah is going up the gears around questions like the crude product spreads, local refining and storage. So there's absolutely an opportunity for Fujairah to capitalize on other hubs going in slightly different directions. I think Singapore will still be an anchor reference point for Asia Pacific. Certainly our own heritage, history, and future is really importantly bound together with Singapore, just like it is with Fujairah. But we were talking in a panel earlier this week, which I remember many of the folks here were involved in, that this is the year when the Middle East becomes net long on every refined product, including gasoline. That's the critical one to join the fold of being long products, which turns Fujairah into the epicenter of a Middle East Gulf source of exports and supply to the global market. Now, that was the role that founded Singapore's relevance for Eastern markets, and Fujairah is taking that role this year because gasoline is joining the fold as a net export market unequivocally from the region in general. So yes, it's an opportunity, and it'll be fascinating to see how much transparency will come to the market around the crude piece of all of this, because the reason I voted for data points is particularly because there hasn't been the visibility into the crude inventories in Fujairah that there has now been for products for a long time. And the market is going to need that to have confidence in the new contract that IFAD is launching, to have confidence in trading, and to take the next step around relevance and narrative and reference pricing as well. So I'd be keen to see that.
That's a good closing comment. Lars, could we have your closing comment on this session? Again, your reference to these new ideas that Fujairah should be thinking about and actioning.
Well, maybe let me comment on Captain Ali's reference to the Duqm project. It's considered to be one of the biggest hydrogen projects right now, 250 megawatt electrolyzer capacity. But what you need to connect to is it only produces less than 200,000 tons of ammonia per year. So, and because of the lower calorific value of ammonia compared to oil, that equals less than 100,000 tons of oil on an annual basis. This is 1% of Fujairah's annual bunker demand, and Fujairah's annual bunker demand is only 1% of all the oil flowing out of the Middle East on an annual basis. So this is a drop in the ocean. So you will see a lot more of those projects. You need hundreds more in order to cope with the upcoming demand. Therefore, it's absolutely green field, right? It starts now and it has to grow tremendously from now on. And you need to integrate it in a way that it makes sense also for Fujairah in order to get the flow into this port. So I think that is the crucial part really going forward. And I think it's not too late. I mean, it's now really where these big conversations will take place. And I'm sure the leaders of this country will work on a master plan already in order to get this vision right. But it is happening now, I'm sure.
As closing, anything else, Lars? Are you going to?
No, thank you.
That's good. Okay. Just to close out the session from the chat room, Singapore getting away from crude storage. It's never been a significant crude storage hub in relative terms. So a few comments there to look at perhaps. But thank you, Lars. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Captain Ali and Captain Salem, for your thoughts and insights on this session and for contributing to the survey.